back to our series where we unpack some valuable lessons from the world of property and business. And we are talking to property practitioner Colin Mansfield, who knows the property industry inside and out. Colin Mansfield, welcome back to this wonderful episode where we are exploring the world of business and property. And I'm really excited for tonight's topic because I think it relates to many, many people. The question that I've got for you, Colin, is this one. What do consumers actually look for when they are looking for a trustworthy property practitioner? And in addition to that, if somebody is new to the business, let's say we've got a new property practitioner and they want to develop those specific characteristics, what would you advise for those young recruits?
Hi, Anna. Nice to be back. Thanks for the opportunity. And this goes to the crux of real estate, and there are people who make careers out of training real estate practitioners, and they make real money out of it, and the Americans are at the forefront of it. Names like Brian Buffini come to mind. He's known personally. He is a top guy, and he's able to put in words what practitioners think and what consumers think, and he does it in such a way that people's eyes widen and they say, but that's exactly what I'm looking for, or that's exactly what I was thinking, or whatever. So when choosing a trustworthy property practitioner, consumers typically look for a combination of professionalism, expertise, transparency, and reliability. So there's some key factors, and I'm just going to name them, and I might expand here or there as it relates to where you and I live. So honesty and integrity, someone who provides accurate information and discloses all relevant facts and acts ethically throughout the transaction. So those are only a few words with a lot of meaning. Experience and market knowledge, a practitioner who understands local property trends, pricing, suburbs, and the buying and selling process. So it relates back to some of our previous interviews where I said that you need to have studied formally this profession, because that underpins a lot of these things. Valid credentials and compliance. So my colleagues in the office where I work, they would know this is a bugbear of mine. Valid credentials and compliance. So all practitioners in South Africa have to be registered with a relevant regulatory body. In our case, it's the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority. And I'm just going to expand quickly, and this is so important. Every person, even if you're a newbie, you have to register with the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority. They run a fidelity fund. I've already stammered over that word once before in an interview. And a fidelity fund is in different professions, and the most obvious one we can think of is the attorney's profession, the legal profession. And all property practitioners, by registering, contribute to this fund. So this fund is there, in essence, that members of the public can lay claims to this fund if they were done in a property transaction by a property practitioner and stuff like that. In practice, members of the public would have to exhaust all other legal avenues and ways of trying to get their money before the fidelity fund would entertain a claim. But essentially, for me to practice, I've got to be backed up by a fidelity fund. And we have a situation, and it's in our very town, and I think it's a reflection of a lot of towns and cities, where people are allowed to practice and nobody's checking that they are in fact registered with the PPRA. So remember, at this stage, we're not even talking about qualifying yet. We're just simply talking about registering, and it's compulsory. It's law. So it's not a nice to have. It's not just a code of conduct to try and make people act nicely and whatever. It's a law. You have to belong to it. So how does that translate in practice? If somebody cold calls you, or you about a property, or have you got a property in the market, or you're talking to somebody you don't know, and even if you are talking to somebody you know, and you've known a long time, and you think they're an estate agent, they hold themselves to be an estate agent, there's nothing wrong with asking them for their fidelity fund certificate. I walk around with mine on my phone all the time, and I make a point of showing it like my business card, because I'm trying to train the public who've got very low expectations, who have no knowledge of this, that you need to be only dealing with people who are backed up by a fidelity fund. You know how it works in life. When there's a problem and money disappeared out of a transaction, or something didn't go right and you took a knock, the irony is you're going to phone somebody like me who's registered and whatever for assistance. And because when you phone the PPRA about it, they said to you, but we don't know who you're talking about. They're not registered with us. We can't help you. You can't put a claim in against the fund because you didn't take enough precautions to make sure you were dealing with a proper estate agent. And maybe the word discerning is right, the right word to use. So, a lot of people are not discerning enough with a lot of things in life. But the one that I'm talking about is you must discern who you are dealing with. You must be discerning about it. And the easiest way is to go online. It's simple, the PPRA, and it's got a practitioner search, and you put in that person's name. And if you can't find them, you ring them up and you say, do you know who this person is? And you will be shocked. I won't, but you will be, at the amount of people walking around in Klerksdorp who are not registered. So I've spoken enough now about valid credentials and compliance. It is critical. By the way, are you aware that in 2008, all estate agents in South Africa were told they need to requalify? Do you know about that, Anne?
No, not at all. No.
So somebody like me, I was qualified and practicing, and there was a law change in 2008. Every single practitioner in South Africa, old, young, ugly, nice, handsome, everybody had to requalify. And if you wanted to be exempt from it, there was very few instances where you were exempt and exempted from having to requalify. And in a way, it was a good thing because maybe the previous standard wasn't that good, or it was very easy to become an estate agent. But they changed it in 2008, and they said everybody has to do it, and they gave deadlines. We're now on about the 29th deadline from 2008 because they chicken out every time that when people just don't give a damn and they don't qualify, and they're so scared they lose all this money, this revenue every year, and they give them an extension. And I say 29th, I'm being sarcastic, but things changed a lot. And the reality is there's many unregistered and unqualified people who act like agents. And a few years ago, they instructed attorneys firms to not pay commission unless there was a proper fidelity fund shown. But I mean, there's ways around that because now the first attorney that starts asking hard questions doesn't get business, and so it's not a good situation in South Africa. But the public can be more discerning, and it will help. And that's what I can say about that.
That's an important point. Just making people aware of that is actually a very good start.
Do you want to hear one of the things that when you study and you get your qualifications and stuff, and half of the exam paper is about the code of conduct and how people have to conduct themselves, and in all kinds of scenarios and stuff. You're talking to somebody who is not registered and by implication not qualified. You're just talking to somebody who's nowhere. They're not on any level where they should be. And you as a member of the public must make a point of being discerning. I encourage people asking me where my Fidelity Fund certificate is by flashing it around. Something else that the public should look for is strong communication skills. So it's prompt responses, regular updates, and the ability to explain complex processes clearly. You need to be able to do that. A proven track record. Look for positive reviews, client testimonials, referrals, and a history of successful property transactions. Transparency on fees and processes. An agent must be able to give you clear explanations of commission structures, mandates, contracts, transaction timelines, that kind of stuff. Property is quite complicated. We have real property rights in our country where you can trade and sell property as opposed to a communist country where you can't. Negotiation skills, the ability to secure the best possible outcome for buyers or sellers while maintaining professionalism. So in practice, what that means is every now and again we get up and walk around the corner, exercise a bit of vocab and come back around the corner and smile and try and carry on negotiating. Availability and responsiveness. Consumers value practitioners who are accessible and willing to assist when needed, but it doesn't mean you need to send me please call me at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Professional marketing. For sellers, quality photography, effective online marketing, and broad exposure of the property are important indicators of competence. And client-centered service. A practitioner who listens to the client's needs and understands their goals and prioritizes their interests. In surveys across various property markets, trust is most strongly influenced by honesty, communication, local expertise, and a proven track record of successful transactions. And these qualities often outweigh factors such as the company size, brands, or how many years in business that company's been. That's what I can tell you.
That's quite understandable. So I think with this background, given this background, I think that gives anyone who's new to the profession quite a lot to go on. And my hope is that they're going to re-listen to this video so that they can glean all those gems that you've had to share with us tonight. Thank you very much, Colin.
You call them gems?